Hey everybody, Alexander from Divine Reconnections. Kind of talking about one of my services that I love, that is a core of my work that I do. It's a core of the energy work, and I think has the most profound shifts within my work. I think that's where I see the most change with my clients, and that core service is my child regression therapy work and my past life regression work. And what the child regression therapy work is really all about working with your inner child, working with that child who as a child developed stories, developed mindsets that were not necessarily their own, but they picked them up from the environments that they were in. And as they grew older, as they aged, those mindsets, those belief systems, those limiting beliefs became part of their story and became so ingrained into who they were as they moved into adulthood. The child regression therapy work is where we go through the inner child, right? We go through those experiences of that little girl or that little boy, and we really experience what they felt in those moments. What was the emotions that they felt? What was the pain they felt that they couldn't necessarily process or didn't have someone to process those emotions with? And as we go through those periods of child development and we sit with that pain, we sit with that emotion, whether it wasn't being seen, it wasn't being nurtured, it was being shamed, it was being, like if that child was being bullied, right? And there was nobody there to protect that child. Whatever the scenario is in those childhood moments, we go back through those moments, feel that pain with that child, let her or let him actually process those emotions, and then we take you back and where you actually give yourself support. You give that inner child support, and you give that inner child love. The love they needed, the protection they needed, the letting them know how much they're appreciated and loved, and how worth it they are, how worthy they are, and how deserving they are, and all of that, all of kind of that love and support with that child at that age, whatever that age is. And then we finish it with you as an adult taking you back to that scenario and standing in your power and kind of rescuing that little child, right? Protecting that little child, protecting who they are, with whoever the story maker was, right? Everybody in our past kind of develops the story for us. We pick the story up from someone. And so it's really about us taking our power back, going back in that time and taking our power back by telling that story maker that was not okay, that was not acceptable, that they should have known better, that you're not going to allow something like that to happen again, and that you're going to protect them. That's kind of what a process, that's just the process of the child regression therapy work we do, that I do. And it is so profound because when you go back through the history, when you go back through that inner child and you do that work, it's amazing what your body can finally let go of, what your body can process. Those repressed emotions that you've been holding on to can finally start to move, because we basically give up the story. We give the story back to the story maker. We give the energy that is not our own story. We give that story back to them. And as we give that story back, it begins to shift things so dramatically in the present for you, for people. I myself did some inner child work, child regression therapy work over my weight, because as a child, I was constantly reminded about my weight. I was constantly told this was my reality. I felt the negative limiting beliefs of eating healthy, of food, and of never being able to be beautiful, because it was just never going to happen for me. And unfortunately, that limiting belief is what I grew up with, and my entire life I've struggled with weight. And just this inner child work that I've done, going back and supporting that little girl and making her feel beautiful and telling her she was beautiful and telling her her body was beautiful just as it was. And as I've done that inner child work with her, it's amazing how the weight has fallen off. It just has fallen off my body. And so I just wanted to give you as an example to help you realize that, when you work with your inner child, there are stuck energies inside of you. There is that little girl, that little boy that still feels those limiting beliefs, feels those limiting mindsets. And as you go and work with that child and you give them that support and you make them feel nurtured and supported and grounded and appreciated, that inner child has the ability, right? You're giving them the grace and the vulnerability to come out and be seen again, to come out and be powerful. And that's why I love that work. That's why I love this piece of my work, because I see so many profound shifts with people and so many aha moments and so many moments where people realize, wow, I didn't know I was like that. I didn't know I was still holding on to that. I didn't know that was still such a driving factor for me. And it doesn't necessarily have to be trauma related. I mean, I have clients, for example, that came from, great backgrounds and great family backgrounds, but, they, as a child, they were a rebel. They were a rebel, for example, and, were a wild child and really pushed for validation, really pushed to be seen. And that mindset, right? That behavior mindset carried on into their work situation where they were workaholics. They worked so hard to prove to be seen. So their level of work effort equated to self-worth. And I use that as an example just because you never know in presently what you're doing, what a mindset could be. And just by doing, some child regression therapy work and going back to your childhood and seeing, okay, what are some old stories that are currently driving my mindset that maybe I need to let go of and I need to do something different, or I need to revisit and see, okay, what was my story as a child, and what am I still holding on to that maybe needs to be sunset now? It's time for it to be sunset. And so that's just a great example of even one of my clients that came from a healthy child, mother to family relationship, mother to parent relationship. And so you don't necessarily have to have a trauma related situation to have child regression therapy, but that child regression therapy is just so powerful for anybody because of that reason, because we hold on to old stories that are driving our present mindsets, our present behaviors. And visiting that can just shift amazing things in the present. Awareness. I mean, I see things where it shifts people's awareness. It shifts people's jobs. It shifts people's creative outlets and what they're doing with creative outlets. I have a client that just started to draw again. And has never really even drew, but come to find out, great drawer, great artist. It's like this new artist bloomed out and came out of hiding. So it's amazing what type of shifts can really happen when you kind of do this work and you kind of start to visit this type of therapy. And then my past life regression therapy is kind of a very similar in the regard of really visiting the past, seeing what was there, seeing what were the stories that were there, and visiting past lifetimes, right? Because all of us we feel like we have a repetitive mindset, repetitive behavior that we do all the time. And, mine is obviously self-worth. I was abused as a child, so my stuff is self-worth. And in past lifetimes, I have visited this self-worth issue in many, many lifetimes. When you have something that you're carrying that is a repetitive type of behavior, it is something that you've been carrying in previous lifetimes. And for those that have never done it, it's really visiting what is that behavior that you've been carrying, right? That you notice is repetitive. And generally, you've probably been carrying it for lifetimes before this one. And it's really about going and visiting that and what it is and ending the contract, because it's all about a contract, right? We sign a contract when we come down of what our lesson's going to be in this lifetime. And the more you can visit those lessons and the more you can visit those contracts, the more those lessons get closed and you don't carry them on into the next lifetime. And so for mine, it's self-worth. So I have so many lifetimes of where I was killed because of my worth. Because I stood up I stood up for something. I stood up for my worth, and obviously I was killed in another lifetime for it. And so for me, that is my lifelong story, especially in this life, is working on my self-worth, working on being seen, being safe to seen, being safe to use my voice. All of those things for me were things in another lifetime that was taken away from me. And so in this lifetime, that is what I've been working on, and I've ended those contracts. And so that ways I don't carry those into the next lifetime. And for me, my voice has gotten stronger. It is becoming much more safe for me to be seen, and for my self-worth, to really value me and my self-worth just as I am. And that will be, my self-worth stuff will be something I will forever work on in this lifetime. That's the one thing with energy work is, energy work is a lifelong journey. It's not a one and done. There's always things that come up that you work on. There's always things that you need to peel, and they will come in moments where you have a deep layer that comes up and you work on it. And then, you ride the beautiful wave for a while, and then something else comes up. And so that's basically very similar with the past life regression, in the aspect of, we visit your past. We visit those things that you feel like are your heavy rocks, right? The big rocks in your path that you want to remove, and understanding why that was there, right? Understanding why that is part of you. And that's why, maybe for you, it's not safe to be seen. And so you don't shine yourself. You don't step out of your comfort zone. And so it's understanding in another lifetime, okay, what happened? What happened enough to make me feel like it's not safe to be seen? Or if it's your voice not being heard and respected, maybe in another lifetime, you were someone that was speaking out and speaking up for people, and you were killed for it, or you were subdued for it, in those lifetimes, right? And those are things that you carry lifetime to lifetime. So it's understanding again, what was that? Where, in what other scenarios did I have this in other lifetimes? And in this lifetime, where is it coming from? Why is it not safe to use your voice, for your voice to be heard? Where, pulling the thread and understanding, okay, where did that storyline start in this lifetime? And as we do that, as we pull those threads, as we understand the stories, as we understand the storyteller, right? Who put that there for you? Who was the cause? When did it come? At what age? And what's the background? And as we pull the thread on those, and we just close those contracts, right? They're just contracts. As we close those contracts, and we tear them up and get rid of them, that stuff starts to shift dramatically, because you're giving yourself permission to finally let it go. And that's the big piece. It's all about giving permission to yourself for this stuff to shift and come out. So that's just a little bit about my past life regression and the child regression therapy work that I do. And I love to do it, and I love to talk about it. It's fascinating work to me, and it's the most profound shift. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned to me, as I always have little tidbits of my videos come out, so you can learn about some of the things that I'm seeing with clients. So stay tuned, keep watching, and thanks for listening. Bye.